Hey, what's up, anime fans? It's your boy, Raysean from the Raysean Gadson Anime Podcast, or RGAP for short. And on today's episode, we're interviewing special guest Tom Aglio, a professional voice actor who was known for Failure Frame, I Became the Strongest, and Annihilated Everything with Low-Level Spells, Bartender, Glass of God, and Avengers Academy. Join us as we dive into the world of voice acting, exploring Tom's personal journey and achievements, uncovering his anime origin story, and discussing our top 2 favorite movies. We'll also be sharing tips for anyone out there trying to get into voice acting. If that sounds interesting to you, then sit back and enjoy the ride. And don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you listen. Before we get started, I just want to allow my guest the opportunity to introduce themselves. Basically, tell everybody who you are, what you do, and also tell us your top 2 favorite movies and why.
Yeah, I'm Tom Aglio. I'm a voice actor based out of Dallas, Texas. I work mainly in anime, commercials, and video games. And my top 2 favorite movies. Catch Me If You Can with Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio. I love a good kind of like con man and using his skills for good type movie. And I gotta say, probably Into the Spider-Verse. I loved that movie. Yeah,
Pretty good.
Yeah, good one.
I know they're working on I think it's the 3rd one, but they've been having to delay it a few times, but I can't wait for it to come out. They have been great.
Yeah, I loved it, honestly. And I think that like that whole series of movies kind of like put animation back into the spotlight and like, hey, it's not just for kids.
Yeah.
It was so good. Just the art style and everything was fantastic.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they're using Miles Morales as the Spider-Man. I like the representation. And I feel like they're going to be doing a Miles Morales movie soon, but I can't wait to see how that's going to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I still kind of like the Tom Holland Spider-Man. He's pretty good.
He's great. Yeah, he's great. And he's going to, I think he's going to break the curse of ending at 3 movies. I kind of like how they left like the last one off where he's become like the Peter Parker we know, right? Kind of alone, broke in the city in like a dingy apartment and everything like that. But I think Miles has become just so popular with like the video games and, with Spider-Verse and stuff like that, that I think it's only a matter of time before they transition. I think they're going to do that. And I think they're going to eventually do something with Spider-Gwen, like live action. I think those are going to be the 2 routes that they go, which would be really cool.
For sure. And that's something I feel like Sony should definitely go for. You know what I mean? Like, you might not can do nothing with the regular Spider-Man, but you could probably build a whole franchise off of Miles Morales.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like they should go that route.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you have Miles and you have like a name like Spider-Man, I mean, it's a gold mine, the things that they could do. Absolutely.
Man.
Yeah.
Before we kind of get into our next subject, I'm just going to talk about my top 2 favorite movies. They kind of change every once in a while once you think about them. For this segment, I'm going to say, for my first one, Law Abiding Citizen.
Love it.
Oh, it's amazing with Gerard Butler and Jamie Foxx. I love the whole cat and mouse they do between there.
Yeah.
I like the fact that sometimes we don't really consider the smartest person in the room being the most dangerous person. And this movie really makes you reopen your mind to maybe the person behind the computer could be the person that's destroying you, because the things he was doing in this movie was crazy. I love seeing Jamie Foxx kind of play the good guy versus Gerard Butler's bad guy, but I love this movie.
Great. It's a great movie.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
For my next one, I usually say this after this movie, I kind of stopped watching a lot of movies in this genre just because I felt like it fell off after Avengers Endgame. I feel like Avengers Endgame is probably, to me, the last great Marvel movie because it just, how everything connected from all the stories that we watched throughout our teen kid years to that point where you kind of see it all accumulates together. It was beautiful. The only thing that to me that hurts me is that we had to lose one of the best superheroes on TV, on screen that we've ever had, because I feel like Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man can compete with anybody's superhero adaptation because he's just amazing. I feel like he embodies that role.
Oh yeah, perfect for that role. It started with him, and it ended with him, and I'm excited to see him as Doom because that's an amazing character. But I mean, I will always see him as Tony.
To me, that's an interesting. I wonder
Yeah,
what route they're gonna try to bring him in. They say it's
yeah,
not gonna interfere with anything they did with Iron Man. So I'm like, I'd say the best route they could go with this is just keep him behind a mask. He's
yeah,
just strictly just talking, and we know who it is, but we
yeah,
just don't see who it is. And I feel
yeah.
like that's the only way it can work. Because
That'll be
if we
interesting.
see it, it's like, who you telling me that's not Iron Man? Like, you know what I mean? Like, get out
I
of here.
know. Like as an actor, he's gonna kill it. Like he's gonna be an amazing, amazing Doctor Doom. But I know, like as fans, it's like that face. It's kind of like where they're saying Chris Evans may be Captain Hydra. Like no, that's Cap, right? That's Steve Rogers right
You
there.
know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, man. I get it. I totally understand. And it'll be kind of cool, like if they have like Tom Holland like seeing Tony's face on like one of the biggest Marvel villains. But I agree. It's gonna be a little bit of a weird transition, a little bit of a hard sell to kind of to say, okay, I'm looking at him not as Tony at all. But
I
I
mean,
agree.
that's the hard thing. And I'll say, Chris Evans, he's sort of gotten away with it because he's been two big
Right,
superheroes.
right.
But trying to do another one, I mean, I feel like Captain America really is just too big for him to
Yeah,
try to do something like that. But
yeah,
you never know, man. It's a lot of different ways they can go about it. Because I thought it was interesting seeing him come back as the Human Torch
yeah.
because that was pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, I thought that was cool, and even if it was like brief, and you never know, like with CGI and stuff like that, you don't know what like they could do, like face altering and everything, or some kind of alteration, and the fact that we know who it is, I think is probably going to be enough for a lot of fans, but we'll see. I'm excited to see it. So
For sure, for sure.
yeah,
Because I was just thinking, like, maybe Doctor Doom puts on like Robert Downey's face and try to
yeah,
act as Robert. But I was
that'd be
like, I mean,
cool.
as Iron Man, that would be an interesting route. But I
It
don't know
would.
if he has that ability or who would do
Yeah,
that for him. But I guess it's possible because
yeah,
it's weird magic users in the Marvel world to me that always throws me off because it's
yeah.
like so magic superpowers. That's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Before we get into the interview, I just kind of want to ask you what you've been recently watching and been playing or listening to recently.
Yeah, yeah. Playing. I have like a backlog of games from like years ago that are still in the plastic. I was playing Dragon Age Veilguard for a little while, which I was enjoying 'cause I'm a Dragon Age fan.
Okay.
I just recently started Horizon, what is it, Forbidden West, or the newer one. I love
Okay.
that game. Yeah, and I'm a big MMO guy, so I always have an MMO going. I have World of Warcraft right now, and Final Fantasy 14 and SWTOR and everything. In terms of watching, so it's so funny. My wife and I, she's seen it, and I'm watching it now. Watching Suits on
Oh,
Netflix.
okay.
So good, so good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we've been watching. In terms of anime, I'm still making my way through Shield Hero, which I love. When I get the time to watch it, I love isekai. It's my favorite genre. So that's been my anime fix.
I'm glad to hear you say that because isekais is probably one of my favorite
Yeah,
anime genres too. Because I always say it's like to me, it's the only one that makes sense. If I could literally die and go somewhere, I would rather go somewhere and be the strongest. So it's like, why not?
exactly,
People
exactly.
say those like you already know what's going to happen. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Still
it's all right.
interesting to me.
It's still cool. The
Like,
world's different. The powers are different. I'm all for it, man. I'll take it.
man, I always appreciate them. But for me, I have to say, Suits, that's a good one. My
Yeah.
brother loves that. He has recommended that to me a few times. I've gotten, I think, up to about the second or third season. I
Okay.
think it's a few more seasons I need to get through.
Yeah.
It's a good show. I ain't
Yeah.
gonna lie. But it's just so many things that I
I
have
know.
to switch in and watch, and sometimes you don't have time because you got work and all that stuff.
I
So
know.
I've been trying to get back into it.
Yeah.
But
It's
for
good.
what it's amazing.
Yeah.
But for what I've been recently watching myself, I'll have to say Dragon Ball Daima. That
Nice.
has been amazing. It's been
Yep.
good so far. I think the final episode comes out today, so I need to watch that
Yeah.
probably after we get done interviewing just to see
Yeah.
what's going on with that. Solo leveling, that's been pretty good
Mm-hmm.
too.
I gotta watch that. I heard it's amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
phenomenal. But
Yeah.
I've recently heard some people that have different opinions on it,
Okay.
and it's
Yeah.
starting to make me understand,
Yeah.
people, just because you see something one way doesn't mean everyone sees it that way. So it's like, okay, it's
Yeah.
good to kind of see those difference of opinion. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I like
um,
going into things just like with like, trying not to let whatever's been said influence it. Yeah, I agree.
yeah, I always like to do that too, and then I
Yeah.
kind of listen to people's opinions afterwards because
Yeah.
sometimes they see things that maybe you didn't see. So you're like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting
Yeah.
that you see it that way. But a lot of times it's like I still have my own opinion. Like people can tell me whatever they feel like. It's like, what? I still like
Yeah.
watching it. So,
Absolutely.
also been getting back into Happy Marriage. I don't know if you've seen that, but that's a
No.
pretty good anime. It's kind of more like a shoujo.
Okay.
It's more about romance. It's not your all action packed type of
Nice.
anime. So it's
Yeah.
different. So I like
Cool.
that. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
That's awesome. I'll have to check that out.
But for like regular movies and stuff like that, I've been since it's Black History Month, kind of been watching a lot more Black history movies. Kind of
Awesome.
that's been pretty good. I watched Will Smith's Emancipation. I think that's what
Yeah.
pretty good. I
Yeah.
will say, if everything didn't happen, I could have seen he could have had a Oscar nod for that.
Yeah.
It was pretty good, but
Yeah.
I will say sometimes you got to reap what you sow. So I feel bad for him, but
Yeah.
man,
I
it
know.
was a pretty good movie though.
That's awesome.
I've been listening to a lot of comedies too because I've really been getting back into listening to stand up comedies. Recently listened to Cat Williams' newest one.
Yep.
Amazing, pretty
Yeah.
good. I
Yeah.
don't know if you listen to stand up, do you?
I do, yeah. I mean, a lot of times like I'll watch like the Netflix specials and stuff. I gotta say, I'm still like, Dave Chappelle for me is like probably my top. I mean,
I feel that.
I think he is just brilliant. Like I'll go back and I'll watch like old routines of his. I think when it comes to comedy, I think that he is just like an absolute genius. Like I really, really do.
Yeah, I think he's truly mastered the craft to the
Yeah.
point where I remember he went on stage and did something where he was like, "I'm gonna give you guys the punchline now," and then
Yeah.
afterwards he gave you the whole joke and
Yeah.
then hit back with the punchline. And you're like, "Damn!"
That's amazing.
Like, and the
Yeah.
fact that people forgot what the punchline was, and he's
Yeah.
like, "I already told you,"
Yeah.
and it was at the beginning, and it
Yeah.
was fun. He's amazing at the craft.
Yeah.
I'll say it's hard to say anyone can compete with him. I know a lot of
Yeah.
people say like Eddie Murphy. But my opinion about Eddie Murphy and stand up is I feel like when I watch Eddie Murphy, it's
Yeah.
like watching someone act
Yeah.
as a stand up. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know if people understand when I say that,
I
but I
do.
just feel like he's acting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's good at it. I would say he's good at it, but
Yeah.
he's not. I don't feel like that's truly like stand up is his field. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
feel like everyone has a different taste in that.
Yeah, a lot of his old stuff is real. I like it a lot, but I get it. I think Eddie Murphy's just become so synonymous with like certain characters and
Mhm.
movies and stuff like that it's kind of hard to separate the two. Who actually I got to say is obviously a character actor, but his old stuff like watching it was great at stand up is Jim Carrey.
Oh yes.
Yeah, like seeing him and especially like his ability to do impressions, it's amazing.
Yes, and I love how far his career has
Yeah.
made it to the fact that, I mean, he started on the show with the Wayans brothers and
Yeah.
I think Living Single I can't remember exactly what it's called,
Yeah.
but he started on that show into now he's in the Sonic movies and
Yeah.
debating if he want to come in and come out and still making classic movies. You got to
Yeah.
give him his props for how
Yeah.
great his career has been.
Yeah. Very iconic, very, very, very good career.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
I also have to give some props to like Bill Burr. He's been
Mhm.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Even though I'll say sometimes he's been like I don't feel like he's as edgy as he used to be. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's just his age or just the world at large, but I feel
Yeah.
like he used to be a lot more edgy.
Yeah. A lot. I think a lot of that's changing with the times and stuff. Like, even like Eddie Murphy is like a perfect example, right? Like looking back at his old stuff, it's
Mhm.
a lot raunchier than I think some of the stuff now. A very few comedians I think can walk that line well, but he's definitely another comic genius for sure.
Yes, yes. But all right, we can go ahead and jump right into the interview.
Cool.
But my first question I want to ask you was,
Yeah.
name me the top 2 reasons that made you consider doing acting as a career.
It's so fun. I've always loved kind of like creating, and I know that's like such a generic answer, but I always felt the most alive. I was a very shy kid, and I'm definitely naturally an introvert now. But I always
Yeah.
felt most myself when I was on stage, pretending to be somebody else. And I think it was that realization that I needed to keep playing like that, and I just couldn't, not that there's anything wrong with it, but like I'd been there when I'd, sat in an office and stuff like that and just longed for something more. I knew that I had to just continue down this path and pursue, my career in acting. And then now, obviously now strictly voiceover, but it's worked out. So I think those are the two reasons why, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of jumping off of that, do you feel like it's hard to kind of separate yourself from the character, or do you find that to be easy?
Um, I've always found it to be pretty easy. Like I've never been like a method actor or anything like that. I will say, there are definitely moments where I will, I'll be like, in my everyday life, I'll respond a certain way or have a certain tone with something, and I'll be like, oh, that's this character or that character. I can kind of like identify it now. So I do like a lot of commercial work as well, and I've seen a lot of auditions lately for commercials where you got to play like a server or a bartender, and I'm like, oh
Mhm.
well, I'm just gonna channel Ryu there from Bartender.
So I feel that.
Yeah, but in my everyday life, I definitely try to separate the two. The character from me as a person, and I definitely try to make every character an extension of myself. And get there as much as I can from drawing on like my own experiences. Um, but I'm usually pretty good at able to separate myself from a character versus who I am in reality.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
But my next question I want to ask you is, what do you find most rewarding and challenging about being a voice actor?
Yeah, I think that the most challenging thing, honestly, to me is, body language speaks volumes, right?
True,
If you see
true.
somebody on the street or on screen or on stage, whatever, and they're saying yes, but their body language is conveying no, then you know that what that person really means or what they're really thinking. Whereas in voiceover, you don't have that luxury. You can make that argument with like motion capture and stuff like that, but for
Yeah.
anime or other genres where they're not taking like your facial expressions or likeness or anything, um, you don't have that luxury. You have to convey that with your voice, totally with your voice. So I think that's the biggest challenge, and it's why I think that voiceover is definitely one of the hardest, styles of acting. And in terms of most rewarding, honestly, I love interacting with the fans, and I love just kind of like popping in. Like I remember when I did Pathfinder, when the game came out, I was popping into like different Twitch streams and stuff like that, and kind of saying hello and answering fan questions and everything. That's the most rewarding thing for me. I totally love giving back to the fans who make everything great. So
That's really dope. I
yeah,
know that's pretty cool for
yeah,
especially for experience, especially if you hadn't have that experience yourself and you're always like, oh dang, I wish it was a moment where I could kind of play a game with one of
yeah,
the characters from the game or something
yep,
like that. So I find that to be
absolutely,
pretty dope.
yeah.
So my next question for you is, when did voice acting become something that interests you?
Yeah, it's so funny. It always interested me. Like I always, I grew up on Dragon Ball Z and
Oh,
Pokemon
okay.
and stuff like that. So like I always was interested in cartoons and anime and video games and stuff like that. I guess I never really thought about it like as a career until later on in life. The moment that I really recognized like, wow, voice like this voice totally makes this character for me. It's so weird is the second that I played Sonic Adventure on Sega Dreamcast and Sonic
Okay.
spoke, I'm like, that is the perfect voice for this character. And I grew up on Sonic, right? Like I grew up on the Sega Genesis and everything, and just hearing that, I'm like, now I recognize like, you know, these people putting their faces to, or putting their voices to a character. And it's funny actually. So like that's when I first really like kind of realized like voice acting, like, oh, this is something really really cool that would be fun to do. And when I was in college, a friend of mine said, you should try. Yeah, I know you're pursuing regular, on camera and stuff like that. You should try voice acting. And at the time, I was like, nah, I want to be like on stage or on film, whatever, and kind of turn my nose up to it. And a lot of people just said, oh, you have a nice voice. You should try it out. And you know, um, my wife, when before we got married, she's like, "You've been talking about it for a while. You should try it out." And it did, and it just took off. And we came here to Dallas last year so I could get more involved with anime, and it's been great.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you were younger or during your college years, did you have like an impression that you used to do or something, or did people just like your regular speaking voice?
Just my regular speaking voice. I mean, like I had played like characters and like, more charactery characters on stage and stuff like that. I've never been like a big impressionist. Like I have some voiceover friends who you can tell them to do any person or character's voice and they'll nail it.
Mhm.
I was never like that. It was always just my regular speaking voice, and I never really thought anything of it. Until I really started to do like commercial work and stuff like that, and because I never really thought about your regular voice for a character or for a video game or something. Like as a kid, you think like, oh, they're putting on a voice.
Mhm.
It wasn't until like when I started to get into this, like the business of voiceover, that I started to realize, oh, okay, that's what these people meant.
So do you feel like a lot of the characters that you play are all from your original voice?
I think that any character, whether it's zany or not, any audition that I do, I always try to make sure that everything kind of comes from a place of my regular voice so that it's easy to maintain and is not strenuous. There are some things that are going to be more strenuous than others, but I typically, when I'm creating a voice for a character, I will usually start in like my natural range and then learn about the character, look at the lines that are in front of me. And if it is something like an anime where I have the luxury of watching it previously in Japanese, then I will usually I'll take a look at that, see where that would sit in my normal comfortable range, and then build from there.
So which character do you feel like you've played has been out of your normal range?
When I played when I played Woljif in Pathfinder, he tends to sit like in more of like an upper range that I didn't really know that I had. That a lot of people actually say sounds a little bit like Sonic the Hedgehog. But he was definitely more in my upper range, and once I learned to maintain that, it was a lot easier.
Mhm.
I have when I first started doing voiceover, I did like a bunch of like student projects, and I had to play this really chill, like kind of like skateboardy type character. Like he's like a skater guy and stuff, and he sits like very gravelly in my voice, which is I typically, when I do commercials and stuff like that, I tend to have like a much cleaner, brighter sound. So like learning, oh hey, I can do that and I can maintain that. I would say those are probably the things that stand out to me.
Okay. So what was the moment or the thing or the event that made you feel like, okay, I can do voice acting? Was it
Uh,
your first booking or?
n- um, I think it was, you know, I think I'd always known that I could do it. I think that when I really realized that I had a knack for it was when I was kind of like really just dipping my toes in the water, and I took a commercial voiceover course. And they had us do like different commercials and stuff like that, and I think I did like a podcast commercial for something. Um, and like everybody was very like big and big bold voice and stuff like that, and I was kind of just very relaxed, and that's just what felt natural to me, and the teacher really really liked it. I think that was the moment that I realized like I could make a good career doing this.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, my next question I want to ask you is
Yeah.
one of the main reasons I brought you on was to dive into your experience working on a failure frame.
Yeah.
What was it like stepping into the lead role? And
Yeah.
do you feel like you connect to the character at all?
Yeah, absolutely. It was awesome because like I just come from Bartender, right?
Mhm.
And Ryu is obviously very different than Toka.
Man,
Even just the animes themselves are super different.
mindsets.
Yeah, totally, and just a different style. I was excited because it is an isekai, and I was super pumped. But I think once I started watching it, I was like, wow, they're putting a lot of faith in me because Toka really is like it's it's a lot of it is in, you hear his thoughts and stuff like that. It's through his lens, and except for like the parts where it goes to the class, which were really really awesome to see. And I think that I was definitely nervous. I really was, especially like having come from Bartender, then to see this where it was like he's fighting, he's got all these efforts, he's running away, he's got this huge growth in just like the first two episodes, from this kind of timid, very, in the background, like he says, character, to no, like I'm done.
I'm the main character.
I'm the main character. I'm done with all, I'm done with being a background character. I'm done with being this timid little guy, like this timid guy. If you're going to go after me, then I'm just going to go after you. Right. And when I really realized that, like, I was felt so at home with this character, was in episode 2, when we were recording that scene with the Soul Eater, and just like how I was able to just connect to his fear and his, obviously he's putting on a show, right? And just his rage and how he felt and how just done he was with all the stuff that he had dealt with. I think that's when I really realized, like, this is going to be, this is where I'm going to be able to prove to everybody that I can also step into the role of, like, a typical anime, darker, more fighting protagonist and stuff.
For sure, for sure. So how do you like the overall theme of the show of revenge? Is that something that you've had to deal with yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I've never, I've never had to deal with like something like to that level. Obviously I felt betrayed by people and stuff like that in the past. I love, like, just taking myself out of it. I really love, like, the grittier, kind of darker revenge aspect, because yes, in a lot of isekai, shows, typically the main character is thought to be weak and they're kind of cast aside, and there's usually like a one main villain that just totally just tries to just destroy them and stuff like that, and then they have to they rise up and show how strong they are, and but they're still like a hero, right? And yes, Toka is still the hero, quote unquote. Like, he does do heroic things. He saves Lisbeth. He saves Eve. He helps Saris, and yes, he does rope them into his revenge and stuff like that. But I love, like, the grittier aspect where he says, I'm not here. I'm not looking to save the world, right? Like, I'm literally just here for my revenge. And I liked seeing that kind of, like, different aspect of, like, a main character who got just so totally cast aside and screwed over. And he reacts, honestly, in a way that I think a lot of people would react in a similar situation, where it's fear turned into, like, no, I'm going to fight back, and I'm going to fight against you guys that did this to me. And in terms of, like, it's funny, like, a lot of people, Ryu I loved playing Ryu, and he was very, like, very similar to me. And, Toka, once I really dug deep, and a lot of that rage and a lot of that, just anger and stuff like that, I realized that I was able to tap into a lot of those things, and a lot of those emotions and feelings were my own. And that, combined with, like, my training and stuff like that, and just being so totally into the show and into the role, I think is what helped me bring Toka to life.
For sure. I find that to be very interesting.
Yeah.
And I also agree with you. Sometimes you want to see a hero who, when something actually gets done to them dirty, it's actually takes a real human moment there, and stop trying to be like, sometimes people do this and you still got to be a hero in that moment. You're like, no, you've been giving yourself up for these people for so long, and they still treat you like you the bad guy. Well, show them you can be the bad guy. You know what I mean? Show them what happens when you actually put on the mask, and show them what you can be, because that's what they want to see you as. So let me be what you want.
I think it's very real.
Yes, I find that emotion to be really real, and I feel like when you said that most people will probably be like that in that situation, I really do. Especially when you just throw me out to get killed for no reason. It's like, wow, okay.
He's not trying to prove to anyone, like, oh, I'm going to do this in an honorable way, or I'm going to, prove to you, just to prove to you that I'm stronger. Like when he's fighting against Civet, right? Like, would he totally, I mean, it was totally, quote unquote, dishonorable, a total, sneak attack, but he's practical, right? And that is, I mean, how many times have we watched a show, anime, or played a video game or movie, or, whatever it may be, where we're like, what are you doing? Why are you acting like that? It's kind of like when you're watching a movie and the villain's giving this long monologue where it's like, okay, well, you just lost because you're wasting all this time. And he just kind of gets right to it, and he does take like the practical route. And even, even with when he can when he has an opportunity in the end to show his classmates, I'm really, really strong. He's like, nah, it's going to mess with my plans. It's better off if they think that I'm dead, So I really appreciated that kind of pragmatic attitude.
Yeah, no, I'm still kind of iffy about how he should feel towards his classmates because a lot of them
Yeah.
didn't say nothing, and I
Yeah.
feel like, you know what, yeah, I'm gonna let them chill out and let them be what they need to be.
Yeah.
But when he's fighting the head knight,
Yep.
that fight was amazing. I do like the fact that he did take it more of a pragmatical route and
Yeah.
basically exploited a lot of the things that you be wondering why people just don't exploit. You're like,
Right.
you're giving me these opportunities. I might as well just show you what happens when you allow me to be able to do this. So
Right.
I thought that was
Exactly.
pretty good.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like, your one mistake could prove fatal, right? And I think that's a theme with him too. It's kind of like if I have one misstep, if I do one thing, if I show my hand a little bit too early, then he's dead, right?
Yep.
Because he doesn't have a way to beat the goddess Vicious yet that we know of, at least, or nothing, fleshed out. So he really's got to play it very, very carefully. And I think that scene with Civic kind of shows that really well. But yeah, I agree with the class. I mean, some of them are despicable. You have Sogo, who obviously tries to stand up for him, which I love seeing her story, and stuff like that. But a lot of them, I'm like, I'm just curious. You guys just totally remain silent. What am I? And a lot of them just talked at him and laughed at him. So. And I've been there. I've been in a situation like that, and I think his reaction was completely justifiable.
True.
Yeah.
But my next question I want to ask you: do you think there's any misconceptions about voice acting?
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that. I think a lot of people think that it's easy,
Hmm.
because like, oh, you're just sitting, you're talking into a microphone, and you don't have to get up and be physical and do this and do that, and yeah, while we're not jumping, doing our own stunts and jumping off of buildings and stuff like that. I mean, it's a very physical thing, right? Like every fight scene that you watch, whether it's in video games or anime or
Hmm.
some of the greatest performances, all of that stuff. I mean, that person is completely moving as much as possible in the booth, So I think it's often, unfortunately, I think looked down upon. Thinking like, oh, it's not as pure or not as it's not as hard as like on camera or stage. And while I think everything's got its own challenges, I think that's a big part of it. And I think a lot of people another big misconception with voiceover is that it's only video games or cartoons or whatever. There's a whole world of genres out there that many of us working voice talent, that's the stuff that a lot of us do to help pay the bills. Commercials, e-learning, audiobooks, narration, medical narration, internal corporate stuff. I think that a lot of people don't realize just how much goes into, the business aspect of this part of show business.
I
Yeah.
like to tell people like voice acting is literally probably in almost everything. It's in
Everything.
commercials, it's in
Yeah.
literally in e-learning, like you saying, and then they're also getting audiobooks. Audiobooks are starting to become very more
Yeah.
popular and stuff like that. I also got like 2 audiobooks I
Yeah.
listen to at work, so it
Yeah.
just shows you how popular they're getting.
Yeah.
So I
My
think
buddy. Yeah.
that's people just need to do more research into it and figuring out what stuff they can get into and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's like a niche for everybody. I mean, yesterday I coached a voice actor who he was a doctor. Now
Mm.
he's a voice actor. He retired and he's doing medical narration, right? I mean, he's got all that experience as a doctor. It's natural. It makes sense for him to go into a genre that a lot of people, myself included, don't do too much of because it's difficult. But yeah, you're right. I mean, voiceovers everywhere. If you go to New York City and you ride the big bus, the double-decker tour bus, and you put the headphones in, that's my voice on the tour, and those are me and 2 other voice actors. So,
Wow,
um,
that's pretty dope.
yeah. So there's that, and like I have a voiceover friend who's an author too, and he wrote a book and narrated
His audiobook.
he narrated the audiobook, the Dissonance series, really great sci-fi series, little product placement there. But yeah, it's everywhere. It really is everywhere.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
You were kind of talking about this earlier when we were talking
Yeah.
about the failure frame. You were talking about your role in Bartender,
Yeah.
Glass of God. That was a pretty dope anime. I've gotten to see
Yeah,
a little bit of certain episodes trying to get prepared for this interview.
yeah.
So do you have any bartending experience in real life, or did you just kind of just jump into that role?
I just jumped into that role. Like I had worked as a bar back at a restaurant when I was like right after college, and
Hmm.
I had done like like busboy stuff and a little bit of like I was a waiter for a little bit, but nothing. I had always been interested in bartending. Like it was always interesting to me, and I always loved like watching like videos of like flashy bartending and everything. And I always felt that mixology is an art form in itself. And so that stuff always interested me. And I knew, that there's an anime about everything, right? And it's always made like and that's why I love anime because it makes everything just really exciting.
True.
And I'd never heard of Bartender when I found out that I was cast as Ryu, and I watched it and I was like, this is really cool. It's very different from, when you think of anime, right? But it was just very relaxing and it was very just like a genuinely good show. And my wife, who's not super into anime, like she watches the stuff that I'm in, but she loved it and she couldn't wait for every episode to come out every week. It was just a really, really good show, and I loved playing Ryu.
Was it hard to get used to the bartending terms and stuff like that?
Not too much, just because I had worked in a restaurant and I was friends with the bartender there, and like we would kind of just talk about all that stuff. A lot, there were definitely things that I didn't know. Like for example, like a martini outside of, I'd always think of it with vodka, and outside the U.S. it's not. I think it was gin. So that
Mm.
that was pretty cool, and kind of like learning like, oh, these are the different alcohols that mix and stuff. That was really that was a lot of fun to learn about. Honestly, Ryu came easier to me, and believe it or not, because a lot of like my commercial voiceover coaching, the trend in commercial voiceover is very like casual, natural, kind of real and conversational person to person, and I think that I was able to translate that well over to Ryu.
Okay, that
So
makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. While I was not familiar with bartending, or myself being a bartender, it was definitely I think a good character for me to play and like a good first lead for sure.
Have you tried recreating any of the drinks?
Yeah, I have. I tried making a Japanese highball. Didn't go great. It's funny. And when I was at a wedding, or not a wedding, a birthday party, with my wife, like a her aunt's birthday party, and there was a bartender, and I asked him to make a highball, and he didn't know what that was, and I was like, I'll just get behind the bar and I'll do it. I'm like the classic guy. But yeah, I've tried. I want to make a bull shot. I'm like researching that.
Hmm.
I really do want to make that. It's funny. My wife actually got me something called a Bartesian for Christmas, which is a like a Keurig, but for mixed drinks.
Oh,
So
okay.
anytime I make that, I feel like I'm Ryu, and I made her like a martini the other day, and I was shaking it like Ryu makes the cocktails and stuff. So I was able to
All right.
channel that, but otherwise, it definitely need some skills to get on that level.
Moments you get to show everybody, I'm the bartending god.
Yeah,
Don't forget.
exactly.
If you weren't doing voice acting, what do you feel like you'll be doing?
It's a good question. I love everything that has to do with like the universe and space. So I think I'd want to maybe do something that has to do with like astronomy.
Mm.
Or I love history, so maybe teaching something about with history or whatnot. I don't think that I'd be able to do something like just like I've done like office life and everything, and it was fine. But um, I I would have to be doing something I think that where I feel like I'm making a difference, or I feel like I'm learning something. So whether it is teaching or doing something like in like the astronomy field or whatever, it would have to be something I think that would be pique my interest. So something along those lines.
So you'll want to work for like NASA or Area 51?
Oh, my Area 51, man, forget it. We could have a whole multiple episodes on my fascinations with the extraterrestrial life and stuff like that. And yeah, I think working for NASA would be really, really cool. I don't know that I'd be, I'm definitely not smart enough to be like an astrophysicist and stuff like that. But I think just in that capacity, working something with space and exploration, I'm a total nerd for that stuff. So absolutely.
For sure. I feel like that would have been fun for
Yeah,
me too, honestly, because I did a lot of astronomy club when I was in high
yeah,
school, and
yeah,
we got to look at the stars after school and stuff like that.
yeah,
I never thought about it as a field because I always say myself, I never felt like I was smart enough to be
yeah,
able to be like to get into this field or build rocket ships. Because
yeah,
to me, I always say to myself, we got some of the smartest people building them, and they
yeah,
still not getting up there. So it's
yeah,
like I don't know if
yeah.
I can come in there and try to fix it. You know what I mean?
It's
But
crazy.
I think how you broke it down, it probably is other jobs and stuff like that that you
Yeah,
could do in that field. So that's
yeah.
something probably I need to look into.
It'd be cool. I mean, like, yeah, I definitely wouldn't be able to be like a rocket scientist or anything, but I think just being in that capacity, like in that area.
Hmm.
Oh man, I mean, like I could talk your ear off for hours about this stuff. I'm like the type of guy that I'll just be looking at like pictures of like different planets and everything and wondering what's going on there right now and stuff. So
Man,
yeah,
makes you think. You're like, well, this could be happening here, man. I
yeah,
know it
yeah.
got to be something happening there.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to voice in an anime of an astronaut. That'll be my next goal. I don't know which
Ooh,
one exists, but if anyone hears it and wants to, ping me for that role, I'm down.
for sure, for sure. Or even
Yeah.
being the aliens. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, that would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool. I love all that stuff. Just like, oh, everything about it. I'm in. I'm invested.
But my next question I want to
Yeah.
ask you, I saw on your IMDb that you've written for Watch Mojo.
Sonny, I was just thinking about Watch Mojo. Yeah. So I have not written for Watch Mojo. I voice for Watch Mojo. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, and it's funny that space the way that I got into Watch Mojo was I was watching a video on like the civilization scale of like different like galactic civilizations and everything like that, and uh, I noticed that the guy who was voicing it was a voice actor, so I looked him up, and it was actually one of my students. So I reached out to him, and he said, "Yeah, that was one of the channels that Watch Mojo owns," and that's how I got involved with Watch Mojo. I do more stuff like on like the pop culture side with them,
Hmm.
but yeah, I voice for them every week. Actually, just before our interview, I was finishing up a video, so
Wow, okay, that's funny
yeah,
because I've seen Watch Mojo videos for years, so to
yeah,
know that you actually in that and that I might have heard your voice in one of those videos
yeah.
is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun. It's cool. I do a lot of like the sports, and like history ones, as well as like movies and video games and stuff.
For sure.
Yeah.
I want to say, your IDMB page do say you write on it, so
I know. And it's funny when you go to at least last time I looked, when you go to like their website, it'll say
mhm,
actor writer. It's possible that like maybe I like suggested something, here and there or whatever, and maybe like that got me like
it
the
gave you a
writing credit.
credit.
Yeah, that might be what it is. But 99.99999% of the time it's just voicing for them, which
Oh,
I love. Yeah.
which is nice. So that's still a job that you do every week.
Every week, yeah, I do about like 5 to 7 videos a week for them. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty dope. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
good. And that shows you that you can also get constant jobs like that in voice acting. You don't necessarily got to be in an anime every week or
Yeah,
doing stuff like that.
yeah, and it's nice. It's good. It's a good steady volume, and I get to like learn about and I get to talk about like cool stuff, right? And get paid for it. YouTube and all these things. I mean, that's where the world's going, right? So
Hmm.
it's a huge, relatively untapped market in voiceover.
What emotions do you find hard to portray
Um,
in voice acting, particularly?
yeah, I think I find fear the hardest, which is funny because that's what Toka is like the first two
That's
episodes.
what I'm like. You show you can do it, so
Thank
okay.
you. Yeah, I think because it's funny, like when we, a little behind the scenes, when we recorded episode 1 of Failure Frame, like afterwards, towards like the end of the scheduled time, we went back and we kind of like rewatched everything to make sure that we were happy. And I actually wound up redoing a lot of like the fear scenes, especially where he's running away from the Minotaurs and stuff.
Mhm.
Because I think that it's easy to it's at least for me, to kind of fall into like it could go from like sounding like truly afraid to almost I can make it sound like a little bit goofy, and I wanted to make sure that I walked that line really really well. So I think for me, fear is probably the hardest to convey, and anger is definitely, I think for me at least, the easiest.
Do you feel like those are emotions you don't normally display?
Um, a lot of my fear, I think, is very like internal, being like an introvert and stuff like that. So I think internally, I feel it and I display it, but I try not to show it, especially like being a dad with two young kids. Like I try to put on a brave face. Um, you know, uh, and anger, I guess the same thing, like being a dad, like you really try to kind of like keep those extreme emotions in check. And that's more like internal and stuff like that. So yeah, those are definitely, I think, two emotions that I try to, sometimes in a healthy way, sometimes not in a healthy way, kind of keep down. But yeah, for the anger, for me at least, is I'm able to, I feel like I'm able to portray that really, really well. And fear is probably the hardest.
Just to kind of piggyback off of being an
Yeah.
introvert. Do you think do you feel like that affects you as a father in any positive or negative ways?
Yeah, I think so. I think, it's funny, like a lot of people will get to know me and they're like, "Really? You're an introvert?" And it's like I'm like an extroverted introvert. Like when I'm
I
out
feel you on
somewhere,
that.
I'm good, I'm talking to everybody. But internally, like, I have to come home and I have to watch TV with my wife or play video games to kind of like, recharge and stuff. I think as a dad, it helps in that like I tend to be a little bit more creative and I you know, like being at home. I love being at home with my family and my kids and stuff like that and playing with
Mhm.
them and doing all these different things. Like my son now is getting into video games and cartoons and stuff like that. So I love watching doing those things with him. But it definitely is also, it can sometimes be a hindrance for me at least, because maybe it takes a little bit to like want to get out there and like, go hang out with other people and stuff like that. And I definitely do it more now because of my kids.
Mhm.
So it's got its pros and cons for sure. A lot of actors that I have found are also very introverted.
Yep. I will have
Yeah.
to say I'm pretty much introverted too. So
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to hear your opinion on that because I'm
Yeah.
like, I always debated about having kids or not and how I feel like that will affect them because I'm more of an inside person. I'd rather
Yeah.
stay inside, but I mean, I'll go outside, and that's usually when people kind of confuse and think I'm a little bit introverted. But
Yeah.
I feel like I just try to mix with the crowd. I
Yeah.
don't want to make the situation weirder than what it has to be. So let me
Yeah.
just try to fill in and be that. And which I feel like a lot of introverted people are just people who are depressed, are able to kind of fit those molds and able to
Yeah.
just put on those masks and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Like I'm fully content, kind of just sitting at home and hanging with my family or, playing video games or watching anime or something like that. Like I'm totally good with that.
Hmm.
Um, but it's funny, like online, like through like for my business, like through emails and like marketing and stuff like that, I'm very extroverted. Like I have no shame. I will ask and go after whatever it is that I want. But yeah, in person, I'm definitely more introverted, and I tend to thrive more in like more solo or low key environments.
I feel you on that one.
Yeah,
For my next question, I want to ask you:
yeah.
is there anyone out there that you want to shout out for being a good support system for you? And can you explain why having a good support system has helped you get to where you at?
Yeah, my wife, like hands down, 100%.
You gotta, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm saying this not even like to be cliche. Like I would not, we probably would not be talking if it wasn't for her. Like she's the one who pushed me to start, pursue this, and she designed my website. She does all of these different things. She keeps me, she keeps me, she makes sure that I behave and I, keep my cool and stuff, and she keeps me grounded and like honestly, like I always say, like whenever I book something and I'm talking about it, like we booked this, we did this, it's our business, and it's like, she's the brains behind the operation. Like I just talk into the microphone, and
Mhm.
100% she is my best friend, my biggest source of inspiration, and like without like there's so much rejection in this business. So like, I mean, look, Mark Ruffalo famously said that he got like 600 rejections before he got one booking. And that's someone who's considered at the top of his craft.
Man.
And it is just, you're going to get so many no's before you get a yes, just for so many different reasons. And it's easy to get jaded and kind of down about yourself when it comes to that stuff. It's so important to have that good support system that you can fall back on and say like, no, this is the stuff these are the things that really matter. And this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And, being able to talk that stuff out and sometimes, have it put into perspective for you, which my wife likes to do a lot. It's I would not be able to do any of this without her for sure.
For sure. That's dope. Is anyone else you want to shout out?
Yeah. I mean, in my kids, obviously, I have pictures of them in the booth, and when I'm kind of like, oh, what am I doing? When I look at them, like, this is what I'm doing this for, and my mom, my dad, and my sister, and my stepmom, and my in-laws, and all these, everyone supports me, and I have a very, very, very good group of friends here too, and before I went full time, I was like, I don't know if I should do it, and everyone was like, just do it, pushing me to do it, and I'm very blessed in that respect. My friends and family have been nothing but positive when it comes to doing voiceover.
What voice actor friends would you say have helped you?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so many. Julie Shields, Belshipper Rusape, Celeste Perez, who's another anime voice actor. Oh gosh, I mean, there's just so many. Gina Scarpa is a friend of mine in the commercial world. I work with a school called Abacus Entertainment, and they're in New York, and obviously I'm here in Dallas, and I coach with them for voiceover. Like, I teach both performance and career coaching. And they have helped me with so much of my stuff. I tell everybody here, it's like, especially in voiceover, obviously, of course, when you're auditioning for something, you are going up against other people, but because voiceover is so vast that it's really community, not competition. And there's just a role out there. There's work out there for everybody. And I find that to be the case when it comes to voiceover, for sure.
I find it interesting that you say Celeste Perez. I hear her name a lot. I feel like she either has a lot of friends or everyone just loves her.
She's awesome. She was, she played Yukari in Bartender, which is one of the two female leads, and that's how I met her. And she's also in Failure Frame, and we kind of just got to talking. We talk every now and then, and she's been super cool, nothing but supportive. Just having like her and other people that I look up to, right, in the anime world, and knowing that they're kind of there in the trenches with you, it's awesome. It's a good feeling.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
I always say it's a field that I always want to get into, but I always feel like it'll be hard for me because a lot of these moments you get to meet some of the people that like have shaped your childhood, and it's kind of hard to just like, oh man, not to get like starstruck. And I feel like I'll be one of those people where it's like, he's a good actor, but I don't like working with him because he's a little.
I was definitely a little starstruck knowing that. When I was recording Bartender, that Chris Sabat was in the booth, a couple hours before me, and I got to, act in scenes with him. He was literally one of the voices of my childhood.
Oh,
so
man. See, that's the thing. If they told me that, I would be getting there like hours early for no reason.
I had no idea.
I'm just eating lunch.
Yeah.
Just wanted to see what's going on, see some magic.
Dude, I had no idea, man. Oh, had I known he was going to be there, that I was going to be in Bartender with him. Oh my gosh, forget it. That would have been. Maybe it's a good thing that they didn't tell me, because I would have been total fanboying, 100%.
Oh man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Winding down to our last two questions.
Yeah.
For my next question, I want to ask you, do you have any advice for anybody that wants to get into the field of voice acting? I know everybody's road to where they got to is kind of all independent. No story kind of matches anyone else's story. But from what you've seen, what things do you say help people get to where they need to be?
Yeah, two things in particular. One, be open to doing, the genres that maybe you're not as familiar with, like commercial. Everyone knows commercials, but like commercial, like narration, e-learning, audiobooks, all those different types of things. Those are the things that many of us working voice actors do. Mm-hmm. And those are the things, that help pay the bills. Video games and anime and animation, those do as well. But in order to be a successful business person, because this is called show business for a reason, right? You have to be willing to do those different types of genres. and to do those, those things that maybe some people might consider not as glamorous, but it's very, very important, especially if you want to do this full time. That and that joy that you have when you first get started and you're auditioning for anything under the sun, paid, unpaid, fan production, something, from a company or a corporation, whatever, that just excitement of like learning what you can do behind the mic and your voice and, what things you gravitate towards, never lose that. I remember my first like weekend that I sat down to just audition for anything under the sun that I could find. And I had so much fun doing it and realizing like, this is what I want to do forever. Don't ever lose that because like I said before, there's a lot of rejection in this business. And if you can just keep on to just that fun and that hold on to that joy, because it's a fun job. I'm not going to lie, going in with failure frame and yelling and paralyzing and poisoning and bartender, soothing people with a drink. And it's a blast and it's a fun job. So always keep that at the forefront.
Yes, and it's one of those jobs where you can actually see your hard work on the screen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you can kind of show people like, this is what I'm doing.
Dude, it's still surreal, man. It really, really. I have my first convention appearance coming up in a few weeks, and signing autographs. It's surreal, man. It's cool.
Sure, I hope it goes amazing for you, man.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Oh, if you get the opportunity, let me know. I would like to buy one.
Oh, dude, my pleasure. For real. Yeah, no, it's for having me on, my gift to you. I'll let you know when the prints come in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my next question I want to ask you, and my last question.
Yeah.
What ambitions or goals do you have yet to fulfill in the field of voice acting?
Ooh, that's a good question. I want to, on the non-anime side, I want to become the national brand voice, like TV brand voice for a company, because that could be extremely lucrative. And I love doing commercials. So I think that would be
a newer or older brand or
anything really. It doesn't matter to me. Something more established. I would love to do that. National brand voice. That's definitely one of my goals. On like the on like the commercial side and stuff. And on the anime side, I would definitely love to be the lead in a multi-season show. I'm hoping, and I think Failure Frame is going to get picked up for a second season, which is going to be amazing. I'm going to be so happy when I hear that news. But I would love to be like the voice of an anime character that's in multiple seasons that I get to buy a Funko Pop of my character. That's like my ultimate goal. That's how I'll know I've made it.
For sure. I know getting that Funko Pop is a big moment for a lot of people, especially because it makes you feel like, people like my character. It's really showing something. Getting multiple seasons sometimes can be hard because you never know how popular the anime is going to be or not. Right. But at least you're still getting some of those lead opportunities. Because I know some people that I've interviewed, that's some of their goals they're trying to get to. So you've kind of marking some of them off, but you're still trying to get there. And I feel that.
Yeah, a lot has happened in the year that I've been at Crunchyroll, and I'm so grateful. I really am. Like, it's been amazing. I've loved working there. I want to keep going and keep growing and stuff like that. But it's not lost on me how fortunate I've been and how much fun I've had.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said you had a con coming up. Do you want to say what is that or?
Yeah, it's called Fansfield. It's in Mansfield, Texas, at the Mansfield Activity Center, March 15th from 2 to 8 p.m. Central Time. Come hang out. There's going to be a few of us there. Some people from Failure Frame, some people from other anime and stuff like that, and other just artists and cool creators and stuff. And it's going to be a good time. Come hang out, support the community. And I live in Mansfield, so it works out as my first con. Come say hello.
Did they reach out to you or you reached out to them?
So it's funny, actually. I'm with Powell Talent, who they're my conventions agents, and they're wonderful. I just signed with them. It's funny, actually. My agent there, it was also in Failure Frame, and I killed her in Failure Frame, so I had to apologize. But my wife found it, and that's how I learned about it. And that's when I reached out to Powell, and they worked really, really hard to get me in as like a last minute addition. That's how I learned about it.
All right. Before we wrap up, I want to ask you: do you have a question for me, or maybe for another voice actor that may come on?
No, I think I'm good, man. Just love what you're doing. I loved there was a super awesome conversation. I love that it was kind of like talking about a bunch of different things, and I can't wait to see the episode. I'm excited.
For sure. I'm glad. I think this conversation was pretty dope. I like
Yeah.
having conversations that really work and the discussion is really smooth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Likewise, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And with that, we end today's episode. I want to thank my guests for coming on and chatting it up with me. I had a lot of fun and learned so much more about the industry of voice acting. And hopefully you listeners did too. Before we close out, I just want to allow my guests the opportunity to plug themselves, basically tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on X and Instagram, Tom Aglio VO. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, and yeah, be on the lookout for my voice, Crunchyroll, and stuff like that. And Twitter or X rather is probably the best place if you want to connect. I'm always love talking to fans, so feel free to shoot me a message and whatnot.
Dope. I'll have all his links and everything below. So if you guys have any questions, make sure you guys reach out to him. I think he also teaches voice acting and have classes like that too. So you want to shout that out real quick, or?
Yeah. I work with Abacus Entertainment. It's a school in New York. We coach in voiceover, create demos and stuff like that. So if you're interested in getting into voiceover and you want to chat, feel free to set up a 15-minute consult. Let them know that you heard me on the podcast, and I'll make sure that I'm the coach that meets with you. And we go over a whole bunch of different genres. So check that out. I coach in career coaching as well for voiceover. Send me a message, send me an email, whatever you'd like. I'm down.
And with that, we end today's episode. Peace!
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.